Hey there, Be in Demand fans. It's Susan Day here from Mindful Arts Therapy Podcast. I had a coaching session with Laurie-Ann. Before our session, I had trouble getting my message across and making it clear and succinct. She helped me create a really fabulous catchphrase. You're listening to the Be in Demand podcast. Here's your host, Laurie-Ann Murabitu.
81% of people say they want to write a book, and only 3% actually do. If you're a coach, a consultant, or a service provider, a book is one of the best and smartest visibility tools you could ever create because it opens doors for you. It positions you as the expert, as an authority, and it becomes a stage that will work for you 24/7. I'm Laurie-Ann Murabitu, and this is Be in Demand, where we talk all about how to leverage speaking to grow your business. And all this month, we are turning the spotlight on a different kind of stage, your book. Because I believe that every expert needs to write the right book, a book that shows off your brilliance, your framework, and the transformation that you create. In this episode, I'm sharing why I wrote my first book, what it did for my speaking career, and how it helped me get booked, get clients, and get taken seriously way before I ever had some beautiful website or slick funnel. If you've been thinking about writing a book or wondering if it's really worth your time and effort and investment, I want you to grab a pen, your phone, or however you enjoy taking notes, because this episode is exactly what you've been waiting for. So first, let's start off with my story about my first book. It was an idea and a dream of mine for about 10 years until I actually finally started writing the book. I had been going to National Speakers Association, I was speaking, and all I heard at National Speakers Association was write a book, write a book, write a book. So I wrote a book. I came up with an idea and a reason why I wanted to write a book. What I understood about speaking is that there's only a certain percentage of what you say, what the speaker says in the front of the room, that the audience actually takes away and remembers. And if we go back and we even test the audience, this is what research shows, that the amount of information that they remember a week later drastically reduces. So this is the reason why I wrote the book. It was so that my audience would have something to go back to and really dive into and remember what I had shared with them from the stage. And it's also a great business card. I know most people aren't using business cards these days, but that was also part of the reason why I wrote a book, was nobody's going to throw this away. It is a great thing to actually mail to a potential client, mail to clients that hired me, mail to meeting planners that were considering hiring me for their event, their conference. So I wrote the book. And the first thing that came to me was the title. Now, this is, I would say, something a little unusual. I don't know of a lot of writers who actually come up with the title first. However, that is something that I did. I came up with the title Rethink Leadership. 4 lessons to make you remarkable. It was just a download that came to me. And so this was going to be the title. And it also turned out to be the title of my keynotes. So one of the things that I would encourage you to think about is, and we'll get more into this later in this series, is to come up with a title that actually you could use as your keynote title. But you want to get known for writing the right book. So since I had the title, I now knew that, well, what are the 4 lessons that are going to be in the book? And I came up with what those lessons were. And I had also decided that this wasn't going to be a how-to book, but a modern day parable. So my book has characters and also the story framework. And the beauty of me being able to decide what those 4 lessons were is it was really easy for me to then decide on what the chapters were. So I'm really outlining the book. And it also allowed me to decide which chapter did I feel like writing at that moment on that day. So I did not write this first book from beginning to end. My second book is more of a chronological parable. And that book I did write from beginning to end just because of the way that the story format turned out. And my second book is titled Rethink Your Leadership, Influence Your Team to Empower and Promote Engagement. And I'll tell you more about both of these books as we move along in the series. I did self-publish both of these books. And I will share with you my process on how I wrote both of these books in the next episode that's coming out next week. Let me give you some reasons why you might want to write a book. It's instant credibility and authority. Publishing a book actually sends the message that you know what you're talking about. And if you're a coach, a consultant, in that book, you can be sharing what it is that you believe, how you work with people, the results that people get from working with you. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't sound like it's some sort of a sales pitch. You're sharing client success stories. You're putting the spotlight on your clients, but it is inside of your book. And it's also one of the fastest ways that I have found with my clients how it differentiates them from other people in their industry. So you can be in a very crowded industry, a very red ocean, and your book is going to help you stand out. Because there's so many people who want to write a book, but very few people who actually write the book. The second one is it's going to help you book more speeches. You are going to get booked to speak more often, and it also will help separate you from the other speakers. Event organizers, meeting planners love authors. It is so easy to introduce you to their audience. She is the author of XYZ book. It's so easy to market yourself. It's easy for your audience to remember you. And it's also something that you can be selling in the back of the room. Let's just take, for example, this is an unpaid event. Well, you can be selling your books in the back of the room. And sometimes if you sell enough books, you might actually, depending on the size of the audience, you might actually walk away with a pretty nice speaker fee, so to speak. I have actually sold more books in situations that said you can't promote anything, you can't be selling your services. I'm talking about different rotaries that I have spoken for, because I knew that in the 20 to 30-minute presentation that I gave speaking at rotaries, that I couldn't possibly share all of the information that I normally share in a keynote. So they allowed me to sell copies of my book, which is also a great business card. No one's going to throw my book away once they buy the book at the end of my presentation. The Rotary is very big on their polio foundation. So what I did was I ended up selling the book for $20. And I agreed with the Rotary that for every book that I sold, I donated $10 back to their club. And so I sold so many books in a situation that typically doesn't allow you to sell anything. So you just have to get really creative. But that is another thing that I did with the books. I've got chosen to speak because of the fact that I have 2 books. And another thing that I did with my books, it's a great negotiation factor. There are times where I really wanted to speak for an organization, but my speaker fee was over their budget. So what I did was, in my proposal, I shared with them that I was able to decrease my speaker fee, but that they could buy a copy of my book at a discounted rate for everybody who was in the audience. And every time I've offered that, they have said yes, because the book actually comes out of an education budget or a gift budget. Anytime that I ever used my book to help with my speaker fee, I actually made more money. Your book is a way for you to educate people on your framework, on your methodology, how you work with people. Your book becomes your signature speech in a written format. It's also a great way for lead generation. And that sort of lead generation, I mean, like, it doesn't sleep. Thank you very much, Amazon. But people are typing in keywords. And your book can come up if that's the keyword that somebody is looking for. And you could also be selling that book not only in softcover, but also on Kindle. And these days, I am seeing people do private podcasts also as a way to have the audiobook that can go in conjunction with your book. You can be using your book as a freebie, as a bonus, and it literally becomes the silent salesperson for your business. And not to mention, if somebody happens to land on your website and then they find your book, they're going to buy the book because it's a great little appetizer to working with you. Let me learn a little bit more about who you work with, how you help them, a little bit more about your methodology. And I think another reason to write a book is it becomes part of your impact. It becomes part of your legacy, what you are leaving behind. Like long after I'm gone, like my work, these books that I've written, the workbooks that I've written, they will keep going on. They will still be around to help people. And I have had people share with me that they found my book in a used bookstore. So how fun is that? Back to the people don't throw away books, but they'll donate books. And the people who have bought my books in these used bookstores, like just so touching that they took the time to share with me, here's where I found your book. I read your book. I really enjoyed it. And that's the whole reason why I wrote both of my books as modern day parables, is because it's entertaining to read. And at the end of each chapter, I also had questions that I would ask my reader to go deeper into the learning. All right, so hopefully that list of reasons to write a book, at least I hope that one or two or three of them actually inspired you to start getting your body of work out there in a stage that is actually going to work for you 24/7. As we move on in this month, this series, I'm going to also talk about how I wrote my book in the sense of I start with the end in mind, and I will share more about that. How having an inner circle is going to help you with your book as you're writing it, and it's also a great way for you to take your audience with you. Whatever audience you currently have, let's take them with you along the ride as you write this book. There's so many more wonderful tools that are out there today that actually make writing a book so much easier than when I wrote my very first book, which was back in 2011. So here's the homework that I want you to actually take on. I want you to pull out a piece of paper, something to write with, and just write down what are all the different books that you could be writing. This could be a list of books that you write over the next 5 to 10 years. You don't have to write the perfect book first. I just want you to brainstorm a bunch of book ideas. Then I want you to go back over this list, and I want you to circle 5 of them. Circle 5. Then I want you to walk away from this list just for a couple of days and then come back to it and look at the 5 that you circled. I want you to narrow it down to 3. And then from those 3, I want you to decide on one of them. This is going to be the book that you are writing, whether this is your first book or this is your next book. And keep in mind that throughout this entire series, I self-published my books because I didn't feel like I needed to have permission from somebody to put my book out there. And I have had friends who have self-published along with traditional publishing, and they have all said the same thing. They made more money and had more say in their book when they self-publish. And what I mean by more to say on what was included in the book, when you traditionally publish, they are going to go by like what the market is actually looking for these days. They say yay or nay to that chapter, that story. So a lot of your thought process might actually be taken away with traditional publishing. So what I'm sharing with you is how I have self-published. There are also companies out there that do hybrid publishing. And throughout this series, I'm also going to share with you what I would do today if I was writing my next book, which that is my next plan because I have not written a book for this new industry that I am in. I've written books on leadership and emotional intelligence. I have a number of workbooks also that are out there. You can check them out on Amazon. I am in the process of writing my next book that because I want to be sharing with people what the in-demand signature speech methodology is. So until next week, I want you to be in demand.